What is it? Not a priority if they ask about balance. About balance. All guns are playable. The metrics say so. No, you know, if you look at the metrics, we're prioritizing other things now. About Zub. About Zub. Gazprom. I don't promise anything. I only talk about what's planned. We don't know yet. Balancers are balanced. We can't say the date, but we're working on it. Baby duck syndrome. Do you know what statistics are? Not a priority, not planned. Ziv, what's wrong? I'm preparing for the stream, rehearsing my lines. I'm nervous. But we have a new stream format. Ah, what's the new format? The new format will be without the phrases you've just rehearsed. Oh, really? Yeah. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the official EXBO stream. We'll be talking about upcoming updates in StarCraft X, and also explaining what the developers team is up to right now. Does that mean there won't be any of Ziv's streams anymore? No. There will be Ziv streams. You can't hide from us. But we made a decision to differentiate between Ziv's personal streams and official content. These particular streams will show a lot more leaks, some interesting information, and so on. Okay, that's good. I'll keep memes and not a priority on my channel. The most interesting thing, you know what? What is it? It's an official EXBO stream, and that's why we're allowed to reward viewers with promo codes. Wait a minute, is it real? Yes, it's real. Watch the stream, enter promo codes, and get in-game gifts. What if I want to activate that promo code too? Don't worry, you have time. The promo codes are available for activation for 24 hours after the start of the stream. That's okay then. Okay, we're done with that. I suggest getting to the main point of our stream. Well, let's go. You know, you ask a lot about dungeons. What they'll look like, how are we going to play there, what's the release date? Now stop. During these streams, we're trying not to mention the deadlines. You should know this, guys. From now on, anything you see here on the stream could change a bunch more times. There could be a lot of iterations. Let me just repeat it a couple more times so that everybody could understand. Anything you see here on this stream could change a bunch more times. There could be a lot of iterations. Anything you see here on this stream could change a bunch more times. There could be a lot of iterations. That's exactly why we need this disclaimer note. Okay? Now, as we're clear, we understand each other and what we're about to see here. I suggest some talking about what operations are at this specific point. Operations is a project that we've been working on for quite a long time. During this time, it has undergone many iterations. Initially, we tried to make a linear dungeon, which, to put it mildly, turned out to be bad due to the peculiarities of our engine and lack of understanding of how to use it. We did not know how to create dungeons. And those dungeons we did were real garbage. Over time, the concept underwent certain changes. As a result, we got a kind of roguelike, in which you have a random set of properties, opponents, and tasks. Generally, it's a 3-player mode, where you and your friends engage in PvE together, having a great time. On each of the floors, so to speak, there is a certain set of enemies that you know in advance. You also have a task that you need to complete in order to advance to the next level. After this, you need to kill the mini-boss of the floor and then repeat the action several times. In our case, it will be 3 or 4 times, perhaps 4, perhaps. At the end of it, you get a certain reward, and the difficulty of the dungeon increases. There is such a wonderful mechanism of keystones, standard for MMORPGs. I think it is more than applicable in our situation. So, at the beginning of each season, you'll start with a 0 keystone, and then you'll grow to infinity. What's going to be special? First of all, the enemies. Right now, we're working on AR for our opponents to make them more complex and more interesting. But as soon as we make an enemy more complex, the question's, how do we figure out what's going on? We also try to implement an entity skill system. Accordingly, before a grenade is thrown at you, you will be informed about it. It will be an audible or visual warning. We'll see. Maybe the test will clarify already how we do it. And there will be many opponents, and they will be different. Also, over time, there's an enemy who was charging at you, and you could ignore them. But in the end, over time, as you pass the keystone, it turns out that he will hit you, and you will die. Well, as the keystone increases, not just the damage of the mobs does too, but some abilities become really important for you, really crucial. Therefore, you can't ignore them, and you can't ignore those enemies either. The main difficulty in raising the keystone is that you are not just beaten harder, but the targeting skills that you've already known become stronger. That's the main difficulty. Also, in addition to the fact that the increase of the keystone increases the difficulty of opponents, modifiers are added. That's another important part. For a simple example, the duration of imposed effects increases in combat, and this works both on the positive and negative properties, both of you and your opponents. We try to make all modifiers work both ways. We really do. But obviously, there will be modifiers that will simply harm you, do some damage. So, respectively, the further you go with your keystones, the harder it gets with the game. Meanwhile, we are not just trying to design a fun mode or something. We would also like to be played for a reason. First and foremost are the rewards. If we reward players with some cool weapons, it won't change anything. People won't play the game for that. Because of that, we introduced such a thing as modules. What are those modules? Some of you could remember the old modification, where you could add n% or remove n% of something, so you could infinitely improve your weapon, finding the best option you could wish for. The modules partly adopt this model, but they also carry something of some past and current events, of those models that you could see there. Some of them will definitely be added to the open world in a revision state. For now, the concept of rewards looks like you get a reward once a season for each keystone you pass. I mean, that's 3 months. You also get an additional reward when you pass that keystone again. It will be significantly smaller, or just smaller, and with a loot box or something else. I don't know. Your main reward is given when you discover new keystones and if you bump somewhere. Welcome. You could repeat it all over again, one and the same. That said, repeated walkthroughs give you a certain algorithm. What about the current state of operations? At the moment, as I know, we're gradually finalizing the player's skills. We already have an idea of what it will be like. Finalized. We have a basic set of entities we so actively try to battle with on pre-made arena blockouts. Well, if I'm not mistaken, there are now about 2 arenas ready for further development, more or less. We test it, and we test it, and we test it, and we test it, until it's comfortable to play. And once it gets to that point, we hand everything over to the level artist. And then the flywheel starts to spin. What you're seeing in the footage right now is most likely not what you'll be playing in the game. These are the initial prototypes, where we try to understand how everything works, how the arena functions, how tasks interact with it, how the mini-boss operates, and so on. What you're seeing now is just a really basic representation of what's currently happening. Why do I confidently say that the work is already more or less acceptable? Because we're no longer actively jumping from one idea to another right now. We've already established a certain vision that we could share with our audience. As I already mentioned, that's how it'll work. About equipment requirements, we'll likely release operations with presets, which will be predetermined in an event format. Subsequently, when you play the operation, you'll be using your own equipment. Your equipment will determine which keystone you could physically reach. That is the condition. Which player can participate in the operation? Before entering the operation, you'll need to complete a quest chain related to it. This will serve both as your training format and a narrative tie-in. Once you finish the quest chain, you can start the operation. The initial difficulty of operations will depend on this quest chain. Most likely, they will all start at the veteran level. Now, regarding the time it takes to complete one operation, we currently estimate about 10 or 15 minutes per session. But that's the ideal time for certain keystones. It might be more or less, depending on the keystone. We'll try to arrive at an average value, but we aim to not exceed 25 minutes because that can be too much. However, that's considered to be the ideal time. What's the matter with this ideal time? The essence of the operation is to complete the dungeon within a predetermined time. There are certain timings you need to meet. The better you perform, the bigger your reward is, and the more you scale up the keystone. The slower you complete it, the lower the reward is. If you don't finish it within the allotted time, the keystone level drops. Right. Don't consider it some kind of a debuff. You will still receive a reward if you really complete the dungeon. It just means your equipment or your skill may not match the keystone level. If you want to quickly catch up, simply complete it in the ideal time. You'll get a +2 or +3. I can't remember. It's preliminary. Is this dungeon being made because players demanded it? Or is this mechanic genuinely needed in the game and will bring a lot of new content, in your opinion? What is it? Or is it simply that players have been waiting a long time for a dungeon, so let's make a good one? Well, first, just because something is long awaited doesn't mean it turned out well. So in this case, I primarily lean on the fact that we don't have PvE. There's no pure form of PvE. There's something similar in the open world, like the zones or story dungeons, but that's not the same thing. There's a certain group of players who enjoy going on boar hunting challenges. That's their theme. And we lack this kind of mechanism. We would like to satisfy this group of players. Listen, these operations are intriguing. I hope they finish them soon so we can stop hearing complaints about PvE. Exactly. Now, let's dive into the world of numbers and charts in our constant segment. From now on, and the metrics speak with Danya High Noon.
This guy has the best job in the world, and let me tell you why. He was born with an analytical mind. It allows him to use complex maths techniques like multiplication and long division. He worked for more than 10 years as a level designer for the game Gravity Defied. Upon noticing his work, Skullcraft's calculating CEO, Ziv, decided to bring him onto the team, so the smartest person on Earth could continue drawing zigzag broken lines and refer to them at every convenient opportunity, because now they call these drawings metrics.
Many players are interested in the question of metrics. The most frequent question concerns KD of guns or armor. I'll leave that to Zub. He'll decide what's best to show and what's not to. However, there's something I can discuss, after all. Specifically, how the sample is compiled to evaluate the KD of specific weapons or armor. A good question popped up on the forum. Very curious. Which from a statistics point of view, seemed interesting to me. It cites an example from a well-known game, and notes the following. We have, say, a specific weapon. It performs well, then it gets nerfed, leaving only skilled players with it, namely strong players, which causes the sample to skew toward esports wannabes, who play even better and raise the weapon's KD. The question is, how do we fight that? Our method of fight is the following. First, we have an opportunity to adjust the sample. What do I mean by that? We can choose the equipment power level that players bring into the sample. What power level, which is a specific number we can define. What upgrade level does this equipment have? This allows us, well, not us, but our balancers to make changes not just on the surface level. Like, this gun has this KD, that's all. They can choose a specific location, taking into account the specifics of the level design and terrain. They can select a certain level of player difficulty spread. They can choose specific players they want to balance. This allows us to make conclusions based not just on the majority, which usually performs very poorly if the weapon is weak, or performs well if the weapon is meta. We can select subgroups, allowing for conclusions based not just on the whole sample, but on specific contexts, like esports wannabes or weaker players, in the opposite. Among our interesting analytical tools, we have a heat map. It's very useful. With this, you can see on the StallCraft map where certain events occur frequently. The redder the area, the more frequently events occur. The bluer it is, the less frequent. For example, we review where artifacts spawn, where they are picked up, and where they aren't, and where someone dies during a raid. Today I decided to show you some interesting heat maps using Forge, or Forge 11 as an example. Specifically, we'll be looking at points where player clashes occur and where characters eventually die. In this image, you can see a death heat map of characters on the Forge 11 map, and it clearly shows that major player encounters occur either in the center of the location, where the main point of interest is, or in the gaps between the corner entrances to the location. That's being said, as for other areas where our corner entrances are, there are almost no deaths. That's because it's quite hard to PK there. You need certain infection protection. It's obligatory, so our main encounters occur at our points of interest, such as outposts, and so on, and so forth, where players die more frequently. Another amusing heat map is the death map, but in the mid location, particularly at inflow. Here it is, and it's reasonably obvious, but it's still worth a look. We see that the majority of deaths occurs somewhere around the outpost. There's a large concentration to the right side on the ship, and in the center of the location, where the central outposts are. The last heat map I'll show you is still at inflow, but this time it's an artifact spawn heat map. And here it is. This might be a little hint for those wanting to run to the mid-locale and to find some artifacts out there. Whatever the case, you can clearly see that most artifacts spawn in the region of arch-anomalies. So if you're playing for the frontier, you should head to the upper left part of the location. Put on Saturn, and you'll be able to find an artifact there quite calmly, in the arch-anomaly on the upper left. If you're Covenant, there's an arch-anomaly on the bottom left too, where you can try to find something interesting. Speaking about problems of southern locations, first and foremost, we're referring to the roadside, scrapyard, and swamps. The main imperfection of those locations is the asymmetrical positioning of faction bases, according to the vertical line, which can be used to split the StallCraft map into two halves. For example, the roadside location is divided into two parts by a railway bank, where the lower part is mostly inhabited by stalkers, and the upper part by bandits. The main problem is that most of the key points of interest, as well as passages to northern locations, are located on the top half. The bandits feel much more confident there. They control the pass to the scrapyard, as they generally operate in their own half. This causes problems in the scrapyard, which is predominantly inhabited by bandits. Stalkers are uncomfortable there, and they have to bypass this location through some sideways, through black willows, forest, etc. Let's look at the heat map of stalker deaths as they return from the scrapyard back to the roadside. If you look here, you'll notice that most of the deaths are clustered either right near the passage or along the road, running next to the bandit base. And even if stalkers decide to bypass the location, from the side, near the tunnel, next to Black Willow's location, they're still met by bandits quite often. Stalkers get hurt, they have to walk for a long time, and it's very unpleasant. If we look at the bandits' deaths, we could see that those deaths, if any, happen on the shortest route to their base. They have to walk a lot less, and it's a much more comfortable route than stalkers have. This makes the experience rather unpleasant for stalkers specifically. If we look at the event farming metrics per raid, we could see that on the roadside, bandits farm slightly more than stalkers. However, stalkers survive a little more than the bandits on average. This is more likely due to the fact that if stalkers are farming, it happens on their safer lower half. And bandits sometimes run into those stalkers going about their business somewhere upward there. If we look at similar pictures in the scrapyard, we could see that bandits farm slightly less than stalkers, but survive much more often. It's very well known. It's related to the fact that bandits feel more comfortable in the scrapyard thanks to the level design, which has placed the bandit base closer to the scrapyard in such a way that it is easy for them to get out there than it is for stalkers. This causes a rather interesting point to arise. If we take the players who are trying to run from the roadside base to the bar base, then the vast majority of stalkers, 70%, go sideways through the Black Willows, forest, and further on. This way takes them about 9 minutes, while bandits almost always go straight through the scrapyard, which takes them about 6 minutes. The 3-minute difference is huge, but it's also quite a long journey overall. To compare, in the New North, it takes players about 2 or 3 minutes to run from the faction base to the forge, and there's a whole 9 minutes. All of the above problems, and many others, can have an impact on the outflow of newbies. We tried to deal with it. Here we have rebuilt the north, which is wonderful, but only about 5% of the players reach it now. About 12% get to the bar. Making any content in the north, we have to realize that we are making content for 5% of players. We want to increase this percentage so that more players would join the endgame ranks and check out our handsome north. I didn't realize we had so many newbies falling off due to the difficulty of southern locations. Yeah, it's a very old problem. Now I hope viewers will start to understand better why we are rebuilding some of southern locations again. At this very moment, we have a huge problem with leaving newbies, and we want to keep those newbies in the game. So we're rebuilding the whole part of the south that we're having trouble with. The problem is that it takes a very long time to run from the swamps to the roadside. We calculated, and it comes out to about 10 minutes if the player doesn't die. If you run fast in a straight line, you can fit it in 5 minutes in theory. But the point is that it's a huge timing. We're trying to reduce it. Because of that, we've already moved swamps so that we could have everything in balance. We're completely redesigning core. It's now, we are completely redesigning the roadside. We all love names from our narrative designers. I like our new roadside very much. It's got a whole new landscape and a balance of power. From the swamps to the roadside, bandits and stalkers have equal timings now, which didn't used to be like that. And most importantly, a lot of complaints have been made that there wasn't an equal balance between bandits and stalkers on the roadside. Like bandits had a quick way to the scrapyard, and stalkers had to go through the bank, go through bandits' part, and only then they could run to the scrapyard. Fucking bear it. It's your job to bear it. You are born to bear it. You do. You will. You're a genetic punching bag. You will bear it. Well, now we've solved that problem. Now you can't get from the roadside to the scrapyard. Hey, listen, we've closed the passage. It just so happened that, a long time ago, we started to check with arch-anomalies, we like or not. We had about 4 different approaches to the arch-anomalies themselves, how we see them, how we want to build them. And we picked one particular approach. We started trying to scale it up in the north, and now we're scaling it up on the roadside, more or less. Now, there is one arch-anomaly remaining in the roadside, which we basically like. This is the same anomaly as it was before. We like it. We keep it. But we'll have 2 other new arch-anomalies, totaling 3 arch-anomalies on the roadside. 1 mutual and 2 domestic. The mutual arch-anomaly is being developed by the level designers right now. We'll be doing some location testing with our focus group next Monday. It's been already decided. The arch-anomaly for the test will rather appear in some near working condition, in a state of some gray-white blackout. Right now, we have some very close work going on with both concept and narrative designers. So close that one of the narrative designers spends a really huge amount of time in our office, in the office of level designers. I get to the office and immediately see him already, even though I've been getting to the office very early lately. Now the narrative department is busy filling up northern locations with side quests for all the factions. So there will be full side stories expected with more active gameplay, perhaps if it's possible. Interesting features will be added for each fraction. They will be unique for each one. We are also now preparing for the release of Operations, the story quest being written for it. A teaser has already been released to warm up. Those of who's going to play it, so to speak, introducing the locations the players will be acting in, well, just from afar, not from within, and getting the content they expect. We're also working with the level design department to fill the new Roadside with lore and narrative. We're going to have we already have certain objects arranged with the help of LD. We graft a story to them, make a common lore ecosystem, add context, and saturate them with small, visual, beautiful, atmospheric inclusions. For a person who has been playing StarCraft for a long time, who has long passed the South and forgotten it as something from a distant childhood, it makes sense to come back to look at it with different eyes. How do you say it? Well, for example, you left your hometown where you were raised, and you live somewhere in the Maldives, in the Bahamas. And then you come back home and see that they put a monument here, a new house there, a new shopping center there. You don't recognize the city, but it's still the same city. And you get the same vibe when you track back to the roadside or to the swamps. It's all the same, but it looks so different. It's all new, and it's filled with new details. It's all native in its own way. And it will push you to create an alt character, since the old quests will get revamped. New quests will also be added in the foreseeable future. So yes, it will be luring to both check the redesigned version of the location and to experience the vibe of the new quest lines. I'm so glad Ziv finally has revamped the South. It is the work of the art department that plays a significant role in the rebuilding of the South. The art director, Maslina, will be happy to tell us about this project and other ones too. The art department takes a crucial part in any location overhauls. That's our job. Firstly and foremost, we want to make sure that the game world doesn't feel like a simple biome. Instead, it should tell a story. All the location objects should be implemented logically in this world. For instance, let's have a look at the old roadside. It's filled with weird industrial facilities. There's that strange military base, which does not even look like it. There are also some underground bunkers. We're planning to get rid of them, or to make them look more sensible, more earthly. Honestly speaking, even the orderly base, which we are also remaking with the roadside, is a vast, strange shelter in the middle of a meadow that logically shouldn't be there. There's no explanation of how it was built, making it look like some sort of gaff. It ruins the feeling of immersive gameplay perception. Our job is to make the player feel like these locations can be in the zone. We delegated most of the manpower to this project. Art department staff works on location concepts, points of interest concepts. Certainly, there will be things to surprise you with. Be ready to face the complete remake of the location, and it won't look anything like the initial version. It may seem unusual, but the art department is also involved in making the in-game events. Like this time, we work with the updated DMZ mode. That was cool. The task was to reimagine it without taking too many resources. Have we succeeded? That's up to players to decide. There's one interesting thing. This event, an updated Murmur faction visuals, have been presented in the form of a hook teaser with our new vision about it. Here they are. In the Black Raid event, you will be able to check out different character assets. Some of the suits will be available for players, of course, and more assets will also be tied to it. Later on, we plan to elaborate Murmurs completely, as the current state of the visuals does not meet our criteria. We strive for something more expressive, individual, and interesting. I hope the players will welcome it positively. One of the oldest unique suit series in our game, our own AH suits, has become obsolete over the years of our development. We remodeled it numerously, and the fifth remodel meme is most fit in this case. Still, let me explain the reasons to it. Primarily, it's because of the suit's popularity among the players. Secondly, the game's visual style is slowly merging towards realistic suit appearance, really slowly. That includes models' quality, their materials, and the appearance framework. Right. Taking all that into account, our beloved AH line, our precious love child, looks horribly outdated. It has a cartoonish, grotesque visuals. Yes, it would have suited the game a couple years ago, but now it's just a complete mess. That's why the art department has decided to remodel it. This time, our decision was to dare to play with the color palette players used to see. Despite doing it previously, this time it's going to be very noticeable. But one way or another, the way we redesign the armor line now will blend in the game better. And I hope this design will last longer, or even forever, for the rest of the time. Many players have also complained about no mutants coming out in the game. I am aligned with these players. However, we did not forget about them completely. In the meantime, we are slowly remodeling mutts, since they are the most encountered mutants in the game, in our bestiary, and the most common enemies. This means that mutts are currently at active remodeling phase, and the progress has almost gone through the halfway already. So I think in the nearest future we will get a chance to see the updated mutt models. It will be interesting. Personally, I'd like to point out that it truly is a nightmare to make dog mutants in games. That is the most difficult type of mutant we have ever worked into the game. Comparing our designs to the Asian biopunk style applied to mutants, we conclude that it doesn't fit the StarCraft theme. We strive for a realistic picture, so the player could feel involved in the process. But making the player believe and depict this mutant as a mutt, as a mutant dog, is honestly a tough task. I just hope we followed the right idea. As you've noticed, the Day X update added some various plants in our game. Just to cover up the upcoming questions, the art department didn't have time or resources to work through the plants in details during the development. We didn't. That led to most of the plants being made in a hurry, or made most of them as temporary plugs to a real product. Now, the art department has gone back to remaking the plants. Again, we plan to add logic and to make them look more down-to-earth, more realistic. And apart from all of that, they have to fit into the game surroundings well. Plus, we, in the art department, with some interaction of the game designers, are developing some options and thinking of making some plants more visible during the day and some plants more visible at nighttime. That way, it will make plants merge better in the game. There are already some concept arts. I think they're shown on the screen just now. Much work is to be done. Don't wait for it anytime soon. It's obvious that all of this is just a small portion of what the art department is working on. The art department is one of the biggest ones in EXBO. There are 60 or even more staff members. Yes, clearly, there's a huge part of the work that's being done by people we don't usually mention. The props department in particular. where our colleagues create marvelous objects day after day. The animation department, sound design department, and so on and so forth. Gotta respect all of them. I wanted to talk about them, since this is not only the art department's work you see in the game, but also theirs. Departments are overflowing with various and enormous projects and tasks. There's no time to tell about each one. I hope we'll be able to discuss this. Also, just between us, there's information about a new suit being released in future updates. I can't share any ETA on it. That's a big secret. Neither can I share any details. Here's a sneak peek of it. I think you'll get a hang of it and guess the armor. Guess. Guess it. Okay. We had plans on remaking the NVGs for a long time. Finally, got round to it. If I get lucky, I'll find my last year footages where I tried making the NVGs work. I've used GLSL, StarCraft uses that engine. Unfortunately, it wasn't ported in the game. I was trying to figure out how the language worked. Recently, a game designer meets me and offers me an NVG task. I was looking for work, and he proposed to make the new NVG mechanics. We decided to complete it at once. We've got rid of the vignette and placed the blur effect instead. The problem with the old NVGs and the vignette is partially dependent on players, those 21:9 monitor users. They would have an advantage at night compared with the ones with 16:9 screens, because it has wider view angle, and this hated be everyone vignette is that fact balance thing. Yet, it is still cringe, not fancy. It's like you're inside a shaft, and it is bad. And we decided that it's better to make it more of NVG with an IR flashlight, with a light in the center, so everyone will have the same circle and highlighted surroundings. 21:9 screen players will still have an advantage, yet not as big as it was with vignette off. It's cool. I liked it. Made with Blender. For a beer barrel. Actually, it is almost ready. We're now waiting for the head coder to come, to test, review, and polish it. So it might be released... Now stop. During these streams, we're trying not to mention the deadlines. Also, because of this new NVG, the trooper had a hit marker on its head. You need to know that. Glowing pants are Christmas trees now. It's like the real-life NVG, and if you turn on NVG out in the sun, you'll be flashed in the face. The art department is so big. Sound design alone says a lot. Yes, I think Green can tell us a lot about the job of sound designers. But listen, Zif, here's the thing. I know we're filming. I didn't find Green. No idea where he is. Damn it! We had a deal to film the sound thing. I know, but where is he? You know him. Grin can go somewhere with no trace left. Hell no. People are waiting for Grin. They like him. Find him. How can I? Go on. Find him. Okay, let's go, guys. Let's find Green. Green! Green, where are you? Green. Is Green here? No. Damn. Green! Plastinka, have you seen Green? Have you seen him? Okay, we've lost him. Let's go on. Green! Where are you? Green! Green! Ah, here you are. Green, tell us, what sounds are coming to StarCraft X? What? What I'm listening to? New character movement sounds. Our team has grown 10 times bigger since January 2024. We've grown from 2 to 10 people. Now we're working in different directions. I won't list them all. No time for that. But I'll mention one of them. The new character's movement sounds. We went to Lin Film Movie Studio and we were improvising. We tried to create and record live sounds. Sound of the military uniform, of the backpack. We bought a uniform for that. 45-size combat boots, a hiking backpack, gloves and other stuff, chains, nails to create rattle sounds. Ladies and gentlemen, it feels funny. Like I'm funny.
What is your gender? I'm a mechanic.
That is me.
What is your gender? Sound designer.
I think we're finally here. That is it. Totally it is. Let's see. Let's go. Should I fully equip it or just throw it on? We try and see. Here's the question. Can you take the jacket off fast? If nothing is inside, like unzip it in 2 seconds. Yeah, sure, I will. Let's record this sound. This sounds nice. Try sitting down. More abruptly. Abruptly? Yeah. I should move more or faster? Try moving your elbows when you're sitting down. Faster. Left bar, right bar. Pick a side. Why did we want to do that and start recording? We want to make all the Stallcraft X sounds unique. Because if you buy sounds, or just take it from the open sources, this sound appeared elsewhere. And the players ask, why do you use the sounds from this project? We say, these are from the open source. And to prevent such situations, we decided to create our own library of movement sounds. Note how we did that. It's not like we came, recorded sounds, and put them into the game, but there were problems that we solved during the way. We needed to create a lot of layers. Like, we did the sound of characters sitting down, and then instantly standing up. It's not like, get dressed, sit down, stand up. Not at all. We had to create different layers. At first, a man did it. Volodya, our sounder, did it. He even sweated, but there was no sound. He sat down, stood up, no sound. We undressed him, not all of him. We took a mic and shook the stuff, like all this stuff. Pants, jacket, even the backpack. We shook it, and the sound was awesome. But one layer was not enough. Sometimes we knocked on the fabric or threw it away. Up, down, like all the possible variants, which probably won't happen in real life. And no one would expect this to be voiced like that. Got that? A bit slower. Yeah, I think there. We got 1 or 2. Yeah, great. Show me what you're going to do. Damn. Something like, don't sleep. I would fall asleep. Okay, let's go. Try to find the position to flip over with the backpack still on your back. That should be it. It should be it anyway. What's the damn difference if I sit or stand? Tell me. I think you should lay on the backpack. I don't know what you want, but I like that the laying sound is different from what we did before. We're going to pump our abs. To pump? Yes. Okay, let's go. Lay on the backpack. Should I make pauses between falls? Little ones.
Сделай вариант.
Can you fall down and slap your elbows?
Типа,
Like that?
да, типа, тут,
Yeah, but with your elbows, not palms.
локтями.
I think it was an awesome fall. Yeah, it was. That is it. Let's go on. Let's take a break.
Пауза.
Okay. As we told you in the second dev's diaries, narratives are in the close contact with sounders. And we are even closer now. Also, we got closer to game and level designers. We're working in close cooperation. That's why I've mentioned the music. Really, even side quest dungeons are going to have their own music and soundtrack. We make things more original, more atmospheric, and fitted to our world. Our composers are working on this very hard. So everyone who mutes the game sounds, just turn the sound to 20 at least once. It's hard, but just do it. Here's the cherry on top. Roughly speaking, in a few hours, there will be a new event in StarCraft X, Black Raid. We're hanging on by our thumbs. It's almost the time. For Murmur, the black market won't know our secrets. For Mono, for Murmur. Well, my dear friends, thanks for being with us during this stream. We hope you liked it. Follow us on social network, play StarCraft X, and see you soon.
Пока-пока.